So today we're going to discuss about another very common important topic in terms of performance testing, and that is concurrency versus users. So we're going to reveal the hidden truth in performance testing. So when you hear that we are testing with 1000 users, what do you imagine? What do you really think? So most people think that 1000 people sitting at computers all the time hammering the system at the same time, but we all know what's the reality, right? And here's the reality: users and concurrency are not the same thing. Yes, users represents the total population, and you can think of them as the number of virtual humans in your test. If you configure a test with 1000 users, it means 1000 visual entities exist in the simulation. So what's the difference? Yes, that's what we're going to see. On the other hand, like concurrency, on the other hand, is the number of active requests which is happening simultaneously. So this number is usually far less than the total users. And now you must have understood the difference between the users and the concurrent users, the users versus the concurrency. So let me give you an example. So let's say you're testing an e-commerce site. Each virtual user, they browse the products, and what else they do? They wait a few seconds, right? The think time part. And then what else they try? They browse the product, they wait for a few seconds, and then they add something to cart. So that's how we normally do it, right? So we search for a product, we browse for a product, we wait for a few seconds and add something to the cart, and then the users pass again before they check out. So it can be either the think time, or it can be even the think time that the user really does. On the other hand, if you launch 1000 users with a 10-second think time between actions at any given moment, maybe only like 100 to 150 users are actually hitting the server, and that's your concurrency, and it's not 1000. And that's what I'm trying to say here. Concurrency is different from the users. So concurrency is really the measure of parallel pressure on the system, not the actual pressure, but the measure of parallel pressure on the system. So why this matters? Why should I really bother about the concurrency and the users? Because many teams, I mean most of the teams, they misinterpret the user counts. They'll say I ran a test with 5000 users, but if every user had 15 seconds of think time, the system might have only seen 300 to 400 concurrent requests. Just see the difference: 5000 to 300 to 400. So the business walks away thinking we can handle 5000 users, when in reality it was only 400 at peak concurrency. So just imagine the misconsumption, whatever we say, the misunderstanding. So the opposite mistake also happens. If you configure users with no think time, then concurrency basically equals the user count. So it can generate unrealistic floods of traffic, making the system look worse than it really is in production, because you're not using any think time, and the concurrency will basically equal the user count. So there's another way to see that as well. So users are like shoppers in the mall, like the users who we are like testing. And concurrency is how many of them are standing in line at the cashier at the same time. So you might have 1000 shoppers in the mall, but just imagine there's only 50 in line, right? All other people are doing their shopping, the window shopping or actual shopping. And those 50 are what truly stress the checkout system, right? So those are the 50 users who are like waiting in the queue, they're standing in the queue, and they're actually stressing the checkout system. So where this part gets interesting is the concurrency directly connects to the throughput and the response time. Yes, it directly connects the throughput and the response time. So if the concurrency increases, but if the throughput does not increase, then your system is saturated. Yes, so the throughput which we saw in the previous video. So the concurrency increases, but the throughput does not increase, then your system is saturated. If your concurrency is low, but the response times are high, then something else is throttling you or your application. And if concurrency is miscalculated, your whole capacity estimate will be wrong. So 3 tips that we have seen so far in terms of throughput, in terms of the miscalculation, and in terms of the response times. So always ask yourself, am I reporting the users or am I reporting the concurrency? So always we use the term, that is the user load is like 5000 or 10,000, but it's not actually users. It's actually you're supposed to report the concurrency. So tools like JMeter, K6, and Neurode often defaults to users, But if you don't translate that into active concurrent users, you might be telling the wrong story to the stakeholders. So there are a few takeaway here. So users are your population, right? Let me reiterate it. So users are your population, and concurrency is the actual pressure. And if you confuse the two, and your test results will mislead everyone, because as I told you, users are the one who is in the shopping mall, and concurrency are the one who are in the checkout counter. So just understand the difference, and suddenly the throughput, latency, and system limits will make a lot more sense. So with that, I come to the end of this video. We'll connect back with another interesting topic. So until then, bye bye from Asin Chandugam and your favorite Little Salah YouTube channel. Take care. Bye bye.